The Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience. Now that football season is over, it's time to jump back into the challenge and everything we missed. Plus, there's a brand new season coming up, so we'll preview the cast. There's a whole bunch of absolute unknowns on this cast, so I'm bringing in official Pat Mayo Experience Challenge correspondent and one of the hosts of the Challenge Chronicles podcast, which you can find on iTunes. It is Rob McIntyre. What's going on, my man?
Going good, Pat. How's it going over there?
Yeah, you know, I'm doing all right. I've wanted to talk about the challenge for so long. The problem is during football season, I legit have no time, although it's one of like 4 shows I actually still watch in real time instead of like setting a record and watching it the day after. Like I get hyped every Tuesday to watch the challenge, and I'm good with this little break. Like we're going to get a new season of the real challenge before we get a new Champs versus Stars, right?
Yeah, there's no Champs versus in the works right now. I'm kind of with you on the break. Like, I love the challenge, obviously, but having as many back-to-back and even kind of like overlapping as they did was a little bit overkill.
Well,
Because there's basically been a year straight of challenge episodes.
I actually liked last season of Champs versus Stars, but it's not essential viewing.
Yeah, last season I thought was really good. The second season was terrible because the Champs were just so much better than the Stars they brought on. And the first season was pretty good, too. So I like the Champs versus series. It was a nice sort of bridge. But I feel like there needs to be a few weeks space in between the Champs versus and the regular season, just so we could have some breathing room.
And I think the Champs versus Stars, like, we shouldn't be having, like, I know, like, Kayla was on last season. Like, I don't want to see any new people on Champs versus Stars. Like, it's a great home to have all the people that I used to like and just bring them back on. Like, keep Darrell on those ones and even bring back some people that I haven't seen in a while. It's a great spot for those. Like, there's no reason that Mark Long shouldn't be on every single one of these because he's clearly available. And,
yeah, exactly.
According to his Instagram, still in fantastic shape.
Yeah, see, that's one thing people have talked about a lot because the producer of the show, John Murray, had an interview recently where he was like, oh, well, I think Mark Long would be a great fit on Champs versus. And then you have people like Devin and Kayla on the season, and it's like, okay, I don't really see how those two connect.
Yeah, it's just strange. And I feel maybe it's all just younger people watching. They don't know who the fuck any of these people are. But for me, in my enjoyment of it, like I'm out on Champs versus Stars, but I could be sucked back in if you brought back some of my old favorites.
Yeah, I think it would be nice, like, maybe you have 1 or 2 newer faces, but if they kept it actually to actual champions instead of just, people who've been on a season or 2, that would be nice. Because I feel like that would actually bring back the older people into the show, and then hopefully they would carry over into the new season.
Yeah, I can see that. So I want to let everyone... one second. I want to let everyone out there know that if you want to get into a draw for 20 DraftKings dollars, you can do that. All you need to do is smash the like button on the episode, leave your DraftKings handle in the comment section, let me know who your favorite all-time challenge competitor is. Boom, you're in a draw for 20 DK bucks. Don't be afraid. Subscribe to the Pat Mayo Experience on iTunes, Stitcher, Podomatic, Audio Boom. All those places feature free downloads every day of the Pat Mayo Experience. So what were you going to say, Rob?
So really quickly on Champs versus, one thing I think is weird is like if you bring on, so the goal of bringing on cast members, generally speaking, is to bring on an audience with them. And if you put on Kayla or Devin on the show, someone who's watching the show because of Kayla or Devin is probably just going to watch the show anyways. Whereas if you bring on like a Mark Long or a Coral, that type of person who watches the show might not watch the show anyways. So I never saw why they did that, but what do I know?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I am somewhat of a ratings expert, but it's really tough. I feel like a lot of people watch the show online now or watch it the day after and don't watch it live in real time just because it's so much easier to watch it on your phone now. And the actual demographic for this show knows how to do that over something like, let's say, I don't know, The Big Bang Theory.
Yeah, yes.
So let's start.
Yeah, we're probably a little bit on the higher end of the demographic here, not going to lie.
I'm an elder statesman of the challenge by this point. So we're going to do a companion piece show with this where we rank our favorite seasons of all time. So once that's released, you can find it in the description of this video or inside the comment section pinned to the top. But we're recording this one first. We will release this one first. We're going to recap the trilogy that just happened and talk a little bit about next season. Let's start with the trilogy, though. Rankings of the trilogy from best to worst. I like Dirty 30 the most. I actually quite enjoyed Final Reckoning, and I'd say Vendettas is last for me. What order would you go in?
I have the exact same mode. I actually really like Dirty 30. Like, we'll talk about this when we get to our rankings, but it was in my top 5 seasons. Final Reckoning I thought was okay. Sometimes the format got a little choppy, but I thought Vendettas was a complete disaster. Like, the format was like decent in theory, but the execution of it was atrocious.
I hated I know like the twists are great and they lead for great cliffhanger episodes and great trailers that you can come back into the next week, but it just seemed like they were making up the rules on the fly, and it kind of sucked.
Yeah, the whole time.
I didn't appreciate that because I know like there's too much Redemption House and bringing people back in. Just like let people play to see who wins. Like that's more fun, isn't it?
Yo, I'm completely with you. Like in Vendetta, so remember the mission where they were like on the cars and swinging back and forth? And then they had too many guys left because of how they used the mercenaries that season. So then Nelson just randomly gets eliminated for being last in the challenge when he's not told prior to the challenge that would happen if he gets last. And it's literally just like right there, they decide, oh, we're going to get rid of a guy. I guess Nelson's got to go.
Yeah, see,
so
that
was just so much of that in that season.
I didn't like the Purge challenges either. Like, I didn't want to, like, was it Dirty 30 where we lost Darrell in, like, episode 1?
Yeah, and the Purge was just really poorly structured because basically every single mission was just how fast can you carry things. And I'd be okay with a Purge in some, like, instances. But when they did it there, it was all the same type of task. And then they also had a team part of it in the middle. If you're going to have a Purge where if you're last, you're out, it should all be individual at the very least.
I can see that. The one thing that I didn't like is like the challenges are too hard now, like all the missions, that we should have some like downer missions. Like I think it was I didn't love Battle of the Seasons 2, but they did a really cool thing in the middle where they had like a mini final halfway through and everything kind of built to that. Then they took it off the gas pedal a little bit and then we ramped back up to the final. Like all the missions outside of the trivia ones, just it's not that they're too hard, like they're fine, but they're a bit too intense where it'd be nice to have a bit of variation between everything.
Yeah, it'd be nice if the show was a little bit more self-aware at points. I definitely like the intense missions, but part of the reasons that made some of the earlier seasons of the challenge so good was you had a mix of them. Like if you remember Rivals 2, they had this one really great mission where they had like those electric cars you put on dogs on each of the pairs, and then they had to try to find their way through a maze blindfolded. And then it was just hilarious. And then right after that, they had a super intense elimination. So you can have both, but it'd be nice to have a mix of it. So then when things actually got intense, you could like appreciate it instead of having it every single time.
Yeah, that's basically where I'm at with it. Like it seems like during this trilogy, and maybe it's just isolated to this trilogy, but I feel like when we get to our favorite seasons, like none of these made my list. It's actually been a while since one of them would actually crack inside my top 6. And the big thing is, it doesn't seem like people are having fun on the challenge anymore. And that was a part of it. Like some of my favorite seasons where, yeah, there was fighting, there was bickering, and there were rivalries going on, but at least it seemed like everyone was still having a bit of fun.
Yeah, I think there's just different reasons why people go on reality TV now, though. Like a lot of these people are just going to sort of build up their social media profile. And then so that way when they get home, they can advertise a green health drink and make money off of it. So when they do that, things just take a different turn and things become more serious. Also, they're competing for way more money now. Where like back in the day, it was these huge team challenges. You'd get maybe like $15K if you won. And then this last season actually made a legit $1 million. I mean, before taxes, but still a legit $1 million from winning. So I think people just take it way more seriously now.
I think they take it more seriously. But I think even on seasons like Cutthroat and The Ruins, and even like The Duel and Duel 2, like people were taking it. Oh, I mean, half the cast was taking it super seriously from a competitive standpoint, but it didn't seem like everyone hated being there the entire time.
Yeah, now it seems like, well, I think like I think Johnny's always going to like being there, but some of the people seem like they're kind of out of it by the middle, where you'll just see them kind of die in an elimination or something, and they're just not caring anymore. But I just think that's what's going to happen eventually after the show has been on for 32 seasons.
I guess so, but it's the same reason that people, although Leroy has been like the most secretly underwhelming competitor in the history of the challenge, everyone just likes to see Leroy show up. All viewers, does anyone dislike Leroy? Because when he's there, it just seems like he's having a laugh.
No, Leroy is like one of the most likable guys in the show, though. Hot take, though, isn't Jenna pretty much just female Leroy?
Yeah, she's not quite as funny as Leroy is, and she doesn't seem like quite
no,
good.
But from a competitive perspective.
Maybe Jenna, and maybe it depends on, I guess, who she's gone against in some of these eliminations. But And maybe, you know what? Maybe you're right on this one because Jenna walks over any crappy competitor, and then how many losses does she have in actual eliminations? One?
No, let's see. So it depends what you count as an elimination because there was the one on on Invasion of the Champions where she got eliminated from that Sudoku puzzle that it took them like 90 minutes to finish each. And that was
a purge though, right?
I guess you consider it a purge because she lost in a mission. But so she's lost. I guess it's only really once because she had the one where she lost to Kayla on Dirty 30. And then all the other times she's like made the final or gotten purged out. Because last season, remember her and Jemmy, she just couldn't dig Jemmy out of the grave.
Yeah, and then she was just done.
But like if you look at who she's beaten, she's not beating anyone impressive. Like X's 2, her and Jay just make the final because Wes and Sarah Carey are there. Battle of the Bloodline, she beats Christina, that chick from Are You the One, who's terrible. She beats Camilla's sister, who is terrible. And then she beats Kellyanne, who's good. But it was just like some dizzy competition where you spin around and then end up wherever you are. And then the next season, she was with Vince, and then Johnny and Sarah just never threw her in.
See, that's the move. Just don't get thrown in. I was looking at Banana's like all-time elimination record. He's like 8-11 or something like that.
Yeah, it's not great.
Well, the whole key to the show is just don't get thrown into eliminations. Then you win. Then you get all the money.
Yeah, and then also the key, if you're not Johnny Bananas, just throw in Johnny Bananas until he loses because he'll probably beat you in a final.
Well, that's what I didn't know. Let's talk about Dirty 30 then. So they start with this purge, and you can throw in whoever you want. If there's guys in the bottom, or even at the beginning of Final Reckoning, I guess Johnny wasn't available to be thrown in, but like, why don't people just throw Johnny in every single time and get rid of him? Like, they did that with Wes for like 3 straight seasons, and Wes was like, screw this, I'm not coming on anymore. This is essentially rigged against me, that everyone in the house is just going to get me out, then we're going to play the rest of our game because I'm too big of a threat. Now, maybe people don't consider Johnny as big of a threat anymore since he hasn't won in like 5 seasons, which, most people haven't won in 5 seasons, but it feels like he's actually gotten better at missions lately than he was earlier in his career.
If you look at like Battle of the X's, he was really good on missions that season. But yeah, I think the reason why now last season he was pretty big target. But that was because the Power Alliance actually like wasn't his friends. It was all like the Lavender Lady, Are You the One group of people. And if you look back at Dirty 30 was like all that. So it was just all Johnny's friends, like Daryl and Derek and CT. They're not really gonna care if Johnny's in the final or not. They're just gonna say, screw it, we'll beat him there.
I guess so. It felt like on Final Reckoning they just brought in people to be Banana's enemies. Like it did really actually feel rigged against him.
Well, I think that was because they just kind of wanted to go back the other way after having it be mostly Johnny's people for a few seasons. But so, yeah, with Final Reckoning, it just seemed like it was just everybody was hating Johnny and Cara the entire season.
Yeah, it's funny. Like you establish these two people as the face of your franchise, and all you do is bring in people to hate them and want to get them gone. It seemed very counterintuitive. Like why couldn't there have been why couldn't there have been a vet team that came in as like rivals?
Well, so originally it was supposed to be Darrell and Corey who were going to come in as the mercenaries when Darrell and Devin did. But then with Devin's whole like issue, I'm sorry, it was supposed to be, was it Darrell? It was like Darrell and somebody, I think, was the speculated mercenary team. But then once Devin, his father passed away, and then he got pushed back to his face and got brought back, then Darrell and Devin didn't really work as a pair, so they had to bring in somebody else.
Okay, let's talk about Dirty 30 in particular, because this has been one of the better casts in a really long time, at least, I mean, for me at least. I really enjoyed this cast. Jordan ends up winning, beating Derek and CT in the final. Camilla ends up winning from the girls' side, beating Kara and Tori, who got there as a rookie. Do people like Jordan? Because I'm a big Jordan fan, and I don't know if we ever see him on anything outside of Champs vs. Stars again.
I think he might come back if they brought him and Tori on as a pair because they're still dating. So I think if they have like an ex history, they could fudge it where they were still count as a pair. I like Jordan. I think most people definitely like Jordan as a character at the very least. I don't know how you couldn't. Every time the guy comes, he just brings storylines with him. So I've always been a big Jordan guy.
And he's so good at the actual chat for a guy with one hand.
Yeah,
like,
he's super good.
Don't even throw out the fact that he only has one hand. Just overall, like he's probably. I'm just trying to think of like who's the best all-time challenge male competitor. Like if we were drafting number one, we'll probably end up doing this show anyway. It's probably Landon, right?
I would take Duel 2 Arrow Landon. I think is the best the show has ever gotten. It's either him or Gauntlet 2 Alton, but I would lean towards Landon.
Gauntlet 2 Alton, Duel 2, although it's funny because Duel 2 landed, didn't end up winning. He didn't even make the final. And then
Yeah, he didn't end up winning, but he won like every single mission that season, though.
Original Duel CT was pretty unstoppable, too.
Yeah, what season do you think is CT's best? Do you think it is Duel 1? Because CT has like 5 different seasons you could consider his peak season.
I'm trying to think. Maybe it's Inferno 2. He's on that.
Yeah, that's one I lean towards, too. That's like pre-DM CT, so he's just taking he's taking no prisoners that entire season.
Well, in the pre-DMCT, like, he really didn't have a personality outside of that he was just an absolute monster and no one could beat him.
Yeah, exactly. He was just smoking cigs and winning every single mission.
Yeah. So, of, like, the new people, I think, like, outside of, like, Evan, Kenny, Bananas, like, since then, like, who is the best competitor to come on in a while? It's probably Jordan.
That's like it could be him.
Tony.
Zach, I think, is probably up there.
Who?
Tony is really good now. Zach.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Zach. Absolutely. Zach and Frank were sort of like a mini version.
I
of this.
love Frank. They need to bring Frank back.
I think Frank's too savvy. I think he's like wanting to do stuff in his real life, and that being on this, I think Chance versus Stars is much easier for Frank to go on to. That's the problem. Like again, he's won some money on these shows. He's a super smart dude that, once you get into your 30s and you have a real job, I don't think you can just like take 4 months off. Like Chance versus Stars, you can take 2 weeks off, go to LA. You could probably even like work at nighttime if you really wanted to. You can't do any of that when you're on like a real season.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like West, these past 2 seasons, so West has this business he runs, and so that's why he hasn't been able to come on in a while, because he's been asked back for every season and he's wanted to come back. I don't see why, like with these veterans, they don't just let them have access to their computer while they're there. I get that would break the mystique of the show, but if it's going to let you have people like Wes and Frank or Emily back on, I would do it.
Yeah. I mean, is Emily the best female competitor of all time? Like, is that just...
I think Evelyn's the best ever.
Do you think Evelyn could compete with Emily's size? I guess is the question, because I don't think she can.
That might be tough, but could Emily like compete with Evelyn on a mental level? Evelyn graduated from, I think, Harvard Law School, so she's super intelligent to go with being a physical monster.
I believe it was Yale Law School. So maybe in the actual scheming perspective, Evelyn could do that, but it doesn't... Emily's a lot like Landon. Like, Landon never played a political game. Emily never played a political game. They just won all the time. That's the best way to go about it. And Emily's super likable. So unlike Laurel, like no one was actively trying to get her out. So if you play in a individual competition, like no one's ever going to call out Emily because no one wants to lose. It's a lot like Zach. Like if you're playing on the duel, like if they brought back the duel, let's say, and you get into a situation where someone is last and you get your chance to pick someone, is anyone ever going to pick Zach? No one's ever going to pick Zach.
Well, I mean, it depends who else is there. If it's like Zach, CT, or, some of these monsters are bringing on now for next season, sometimes you got to just pick your poison. But yeah, I'm with you. I think Zach and Emily would stick around in that format. I just think Evelyn has a mental advantage over Emily, and I know she has that. I don't know how much of a physical advantage Emily has over Evelyn. I've just never seen them compete together. So I would lean towards Evelyn.
I would think that Emily has a physical advantage over everybody. Like she's so tall, she's so big, she's so strong, and she's like freakishly athletic.
That's true. Also, in terms of like final performance, though, which is really what the show comes down to sometimes, she won the one final with Paula, but Paula is really the reason they won that final because she killed that one eating part of the challenge. And then Evelyn, let's see, I think she has the one loss in Gauntlet 3. I think that's the only time she's lost a final, though. She's always killed finals. So I would, that's another edge I would get to her.
Well, how many times was Emily on? 4 times?
She was on, 4 if you include Champs Versus, because she was on Cutthroat, and she was good on Cutthroat, but she wasn't like what she became later on Cutthroat. And that was one where she made the final, but then it was just her and Jen, so they were just screwed from the beginning.
Well, I mean, the Cutthroat final was the easiest to predict. Once Abe went down with like food poisoning, that was
exactly.
So there was that one.
It was just complete war of attrition.
She won with Paulo. What was the other season that she was on?
She was on X's with Ty, and they had that final in the Blizzard where it was her and Ty, CT and DM, and Johnny and Camille. Yeah, and they came third.
Yeah,
and she was all right on that final.
She was good in the final. Ty was the one who sucked in that final. Ty is awful. He's like one of the worst guys ever on the show.
Yeah, Ty's. I mean, there's been some bad guys on the show. Ty is not great though.
So of this next generation of guys, like I said, Jordan's probably gone. So you got Tony, Hunter, Like, I don't think that Nelson's all that good. So who's like next? Joss, I guess.
Yeah, Josh is the one I was gonna bring up. Because he was really good these past 2 seasons. So he's the one of the guys because he had the one elimination against Derek that he actually ended up losing, but was still pretty impressive. And then he of course had the purge at the beginning of Vendettas. I still feel like we haven't seen him compete that much though, because last season there was like no physical competition, so it was hard for him to stand out.
Yeah, but he's sort of playing the Landon role where he's just kind of there.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna bring up.
Doesn't say anything, and then no one ever wants to throw him in because no one wants to face Joss. And then he would be a bigger threat, I would think, to get out, like if it was ever an individual competition, to get him out before the final, because he's probably best suited for a final now because his cardio's off the charts.
Yeah, he would seem to kill any final he would get into. Do you think they'll bring him back though? Because he was pretty wallflower last season for how long he lasted.
I think so. I think he's a fan favorite. I like. Does anyone dislike Joss?
No, but I mean, I feel like you only have one or two sort of just likable characters, and then you sort of need people to carry storylines. And Joss, I don't know if he really does that for you.
Okay, so let's jump back into Dirty 30 for a second, because I want to talk about like the highlight moments, and this is what we'll talk about more with, I guess, when we rank the seasons. But none of these crack mine, so we might as well talk about them now. So I like Dirty 30 the best of the trilogy. Maybe it's just because there were more vets on it that I thought the cast was really good. And when I think about challenge seasons, like I know that you have like a metric to do this where you rate the cast, rate the eliminations.
Have a metric.
I don't really concern myself with that. I just think about like, what were the high points? What's the stuff that I remember from the season? And even sometimes the outcome can shape this and the final can shape this. I liked the final for Dirty 30. It was a bit disjointed, but it seemed all right. I like that we didn't know who won. I thought that was interesting. I hated the way that it played out, that we didn't get it until like the end of the second part of the reunion. That was kind of stupid. But I guess where Camilla was one, but she'd been exiled from the show, that if you gave it away too early, that's the only chatter that you could have had. But from this season, you had Jordan. Just Jordan's performance overall was really good. Remember when he jumped out of the parachute in the final? It looked like he died, but then somehow he won the final.
Yeah, he broke his fibia.
Did he actually break his fibia? That can't be true.
That was the report. He broke a part of his leg, yeah.
The guy wasn't running 10 miles on a broken leg. That's impossible.
We're gonna confirm this. I have pretty good sources saying that he broke something.
I mean, maybe you have like a bit of a fracture in a part of your leg, and then you power through.
Maybe it was just a fracture.
But like a broken fibia seems like you're not walking like ever on a broken fibia.
I don't know. I know he sustained a very serious injury. So is that the best performance in a final ever?
Whew. I don't. How much did he end up?
It's either that or Landon Fresh Meat 2.
Well, Landon Fresh Meat too, only because he was saddled with by far the worst partner and overcame it. There should be really a blueprint for how Landon handled the Fresh Meat 2 final when people get stuck with a shitty partner, that he was able to do it anyway just by being like positive the entire time.
Yeah, instead of screaming at them like Zach and Frank on Battle of the Seasons.
Now, that did work because they ended up winning, but they had 3 people to 1 bad player, and then you could basically just carry them the entire way. But like if it's a 1v1, that's what we might get for the next season. That I feel like the power of positivity really works in these circumstances.
Yeah, I guess it's just hard to keep a cool head, especially with the type of people they cast on these shows. You aren't exactly, getting the most calm and collected, especially these days. So yeah. I think they're just natural instincts to just yell at people. But I think it's a more effective strategy. It's definitely shown that way.
So is Devin's first season was what? Invasion? Bloodlines, maybe? I forget what it is. Sexes 3?
His was Rivals 3, when he was paired with Cheyenne.
All right, so this kind of begins the Bananas and Devin sort of thing. It doesn't really crop up on Dirty 30, it goes through, but we see Devin here. I want to talk about Devin for a second. I guess we'll eventually talk about Bananas when we talk about Final Reckoning with the 2 of them, but it would be better if Devin was better, right?
Yeah, see, people always compare Devin to Wes, and Wes was like a legit competitor as soon as he got on the show. And Devin tends to lean more towards like emotional manipulation, while I think Wes is more mental manipulation. So I think there's a difference there between them. But if Devin was even like if he was a B+ competitor instead of, a B- C+, I think he would have way more impact on the show than he does.
I don't even think he's a B-. I think he's like a C- competitor versus like a lot of the guys that they have on now. Like I know he beat Bananas in that one elimination, but it seemed like they brought out that elimination solely so he could beat Bananas in it.
Yeah, because it made way more fun of the storyline for Devin to actually have a shot in that elimination. I mean, I guess, yeah, you're right with the cast now. The cast now, just everybody seems so beefy that they can't really compete, especially in these physical eliminations. Like, it's like him and Shane are going up against Zach or these just 250-pound former football players who just have no shot.
I suppose so. And like even if you put Devin up against like Nelson or whatever. So cast-wise, Dirty 30 has the best, right?
I don't even know if the cast is the best. My one issue with this cast, I like they brought back these vets, but I kind of feel like there was one or two too many because they just controlled everything in the politics. Like, they never were threatened at all.
A lot of that may have had to do with Ashley quitting on like the first night.
Yeah, that didn't help because if Ashley's actually a good competitor, while it was Brianna they brought back on, whoever she was not. She couldn't make any sort of inways. And then also with the guys too, Dario for some reason just decided to go along with whatever the vets wanted to do, and then Tony stupidly went along with the vets until they finally backstabbed him. So they just had so many votes that nobody else can make any inroads. Like Hunter, I think got thrown into like 3 eliminations in a row or something at one point.
Yeah, but that
with a broken hand.
But that was good though, because that actually built up Hunter as somewhat of a fan favorite. I guess like I like Hunter. I just think he's an awesome competitor, and that kind of showcased it. Like once every season, like you need your major storyline. So this one, I guess the biggest thing from this season was probably Camilla and Leroy and the lack of class and just how terrible of a person Camilla is versus all the class that Leroy had. You had. What else was there here? You had Jordan making some real offside remarks to Jemmy at some point. That sticks out from this season. What else from this season? Is this the one where Dario slept?
There's one.
Is this where Dario slept the entire time, or is that Vendettas?
No, this is where Dario slept the entire time. Other thing though, remember in the second episode of this season, Tony's brother Shane and Simone had that fight that wasn't even shown on camera, and then at the reunion they tried to like play it off. I forget what they tried to play it off as, but not actually what happened. And then it turned out to be like a racial issue they were discussing that came out during the reunion. People forget just how many crazy things happened during this season because it was just so long. But there were like 3 or 4 moments that any other season would have been the craziest thing to happen.
Is that I didn't even know that's what happened. This reunion was so frustrating to try to watch. Like the reunions in general are pretty frustrating to watch, but this one in particular, just because all I want to know is who won, that I really stopped paying attention. So that's what happened. So they did have footage of it. They decided not to show it.
I mean, I don't have any. I would think that's what happened. I don't really know for sure. The thing with the reunions, I wouldn't mind if they held the winner over, but they need to release it before the reunion ends, because then we don't get the people talking about it at all. And like when you hear people at the reunion, you want to hear them talk about the results of the season. You don't want them to have to hide it the whole time.
Yeah. So the other big storylines here, like Hunter, you built a character in Hunter. He's a gamer. Everyone's going to like him moving forward as a competitor, maybe not as a person, but as someone in the eliminations, he's a real threat. Tori, on the other side, really built herself up as someone to take seriously, except for when her ex-boyfriend is her partner. And then you got the return of Derek. Derek, especially in the challenge social media world, like Derek's been on the show, real good guy. That everyone kind of forgot about him, and I don't understand why they don't cast him more on the shows. Like, who's anti-Derek?
I think the podcast might actually hurt him now, because that was such a good advertisement for the show. If he goes on the show, does the podcast still continue? Do they still talk about it every week? And then also with that, he's built such a good network with all these other people now, where everybody really likes Derek, and if he got brought back on, maybe he would just skate because he has all these allies now.
So is he a candidate for Champs versus Stars then?
He definitely would. If they do Champs versus again, he's definitely someone I think they would bring on. I think bringing on like him and like those older people who talked about like Mark or Landon would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, and you also had the Jenna and Kayla sort of alliance on this season too, which I thought was good. They didn't quite come through on it because they got manipulated by Camilla and Kara, but they really should have pressed that a bit harder.
Well, I think it might have actually went too early on that, where remember they had that one mission where they had to dig out of that little glass pane hole type thing. And then right after that, they just, Kayla went after Kara and sent her into the redemption house when there was nobody in the redemption house who was going to beat Kara, and then she came right back. I think might have been better holding out actually a little bit longer on that and just riding with that alliance.
The bottom end of this cast isn't great. Oh, this is the one that had ammo on it too, didn't it?
Yes, this is the one that had ammo on it. Yeah.
Who did he get wrecked by in that elimination that he had to like go home because he was just beat up so badly?
That was Jordan, where he got like legitimate PTSD after the elimination, and there was reports he might come back for a future season. I'm like, if he's gonna get PTSD for an elimination, it's probably best for him not to come back.
And it wasn't even really that physical. That was the one where you had to rip the stuff off people, right?
Yeah, you were blindfolded and had to rip off little stickers.
Yeah, so it wasn't really that big of a challenge at all.
No, I mean, it got pretty physical, but there's definitely worse things that happen on this show. So if that's going to happen to him, then I don't know if coming back on would be the best thing for his mental health.
So I think the final thing that this season proved was if CT is ever on a season with you, and I know he had just won Invasion, but if he's on any future season with you, you keep CT to the final.
Yeah, because he's probably not going to win because he'll beat almost anyone in any elimination. He'll win a lot of the missions. But if he gets to the final, he's probably not going to be a huge fan.
Yeah, unless there's a lot of weight put in to some sort of eating challenge, then which he's going to dominate, unless Tony's standing there next to him. Or I guess, who was it? I think Hunter. Yeah, well, I guess Hunter after this season's final too. But like, eventually the final's going to come down to some form of cardio, and CT, well, still like surprisingly nimble as a big dude. I just don't think he has any endurance left.
Yeah, he still has decent short-range agility, it seems like, but his long-range running I don't think is the best. But then again, like the final reckoning, I guess, had a decent amount of running. But Vendettas one just came down to a puzzle. Like, I guess if he makes it to that portion, he'd be all right.
All right, well, let's talk about Vendettas. Was the Vendettas final the worst final in the past 10 years?
It's definitely the worst since Gauntlet 2. Remember where they just had like that one eating challenge and it was so poorly designed, it was ridiculous.
We'll talk about Gauntlet 2 when we get to the best seasons, because I have a soft spot it didn't crack my top 6, but I have a soft spot in my heart for Gauntlet 2, and they couldn't have played it any better in the final. At least that was a thinking person's final. It's like, oh, if we just do this one thing, we're going to win. And then it didn't occur to the other team.
That's a hot. Well, the other team, I don't know. That's a hot take, by the way, though. I would have definitely preferred to see a longer range final, but I guess we'll talk about that when we get there.
But all the Gauntlet finals were kind of crappy.
Yeah, I mean, the Gauntlet 3 final is just entertaining because Big Easy completely sinks the veterans team, and that's the only reason why it's worth watching. And then the first Gauntlet final, it's funny because now that I'm thinking about it, so the first Gauntlet final, Coral gets bitten by that spider, and then she just kills it for the real world team. The second Gauntlet final is barely even a final because it's just the eating challenge. And then the third Gauntlet final, the veterans get screwed because Big Easy literally almost dies in the middle of it.
And what I didn't like for all other, like, I really don't, Big Easy seems like a good guy who's a fun character, but I never understood why he took it so personally that everyone always wanted to get rid of him if they were on their team. Like, and why in some like individual challenges that you just didn't keep him to the final.
Yeah, well, it's kind of hard sometimes, I guess. But yeah, like in Cutthroat, remember he was on the blue team with Bananas and Derek, and then he was just a complete emotional mess, crying every time he got thrown in. But it's like, dude, look at the shape you're in, and look at the shape everybody else on the team is in, and tell me who you would keep to the final.
Yeah, like you would never. It was like that. Was it Inferno 1 when they kept trying to get Katie off the team, but they ended up winning anyway? That just they identified that she was the worst player by far. Let's get rid of her because she's gonna screw us.
Yeah, exactly. We're not in the, fairness isn't what wins in the end. It's having the best team that wins at the end. So you want to get rid of these people that are going to kill your team before the final. He just cannot grasp that.
So with Vendettas, the one good thing about Vendettas that I really liked was, I mean, maybe it was on Dirty Third. No, it was on Vendettas when they first interjected everyone from like Europe in, right?
Yeah, that was the first season with the UK cast members and the Big Brother cast members, both of which I thought were good additions.
I prefer the UK team rather than the Big Brother people. Honestly, I think they're just a lot more fun.
I mean, I love Pauly. I think Pauly is great, and Devon is great too. Natalie, I actually think is a bit underrated as a competitor, but I don't like her that much as a cast member, to be honest.
Yeah, but is Devon from Big Brother? Actually, I really like Jose. Jose is like my breakout favorite person from this trilogy. I can't get enough of Jose. But I like all the UK people are great. Like all the girls were great, all the dudes were great, and they brought back some of the fun from the challenge. Like they were hooking up with everyone. They were drinking the entire time. They were just yelling at people constantly. Like that's what I want to see. Like hilarious drama in the house. And it seemed like the next day they were kind of over it.
Yeah, there's a big problem with Vendettas. It's just the cast I actually thought was really good. Like, I almost prefer the Vendettas cast over the Dirty 30 cast. Like, I think bringing Brad back was a great addition, too. Out of all the vets they've brought back, he's probably brought back, like, the most heat with him as he's been brought back. So I thought him and then the UK guys, they were all really good casting choices.
Yeah, so like Brad's probably, of the veterans, the most competitive veteran that was brought back. Although Darrell is still pretty good. We just don't get to see him all that much. Like he kind of got kneecapped both times he was back. Vendettas is the one where they had the mercenaries, right? To come in. And then they like changed the mercenary rules halfway through when there was a draw.
Well, so Vendettas Mercenaries, that was one where they just came in and eliminated people. And then on Final Reckoning was where they came in, and if they won, they took the spot. And so I guess I don't like the Mercenaries really either way. The ending of Final Reckoning, where Ashley and Hunter weren't on the whole season and then won, really just felt empty to me. So I prefer, if they're going to do it, I would prefer they don't do it at all. But if they're going to do it, I prefer it the way they did it on Vendettas.
Like, the only things I really remember about Vendettas is the Derek Joss elimination, which is probably top 3 eliminations of all time, maybe the best.
I think West Derek actually on the duel, where they did basically the same elimination, is the best one, just because that one actually, like, it wasn't like the West won and then he won the season. Like, there was more actual impact from that elimination. Whereas with the Derek Joss one, first off, it ended just on a mental blunder. Where I'm not sure TJ actually explained those rules clearly enough, to be honest. And then also Derek won, but then he was just gone, so it didn't really have any impact.
Yeah, it was just a great one to watch. I guess the CT, Adam, Tyler, Bananas. Is that Rivals, just Rivals? Rivals 1?
That's Rivals 1, yeah. That's a really good elimination, too, especially the lead up to it, where CT's like trying to hype up Adam, and Adam at first isn't really feeling it, then kind of starts to feel it later. The one issue with that one, though, so I don't even know if you know this, but there's pretty decent indicators that Adam threw that elimination, because, like, if you look at the reunion, CT brings up Adam not throwing it, and then Johnny makes a face like clearly he did throw it. And then also Adam is literally like diving into the ground as CT is trying to bring him to the last ball. So that kind of sullies that elimination for me, but it's still great to watch.
Yeah, I guess in terms of best elimination, you know which one is my least favorite elimination? Not least favorite, because it's still hilarious to watch. But I still feel like that CT, Bananas, and Tyler elimination in Cutthroat is just wildly unfair.
Oh, no, completely unfair. And that's, again, that was the first instance of them using the Mercenaries type twist. I've never been as, I get that it's really cool seeing the two of the three, I guess they are the two biggest show's characters ever, in an elimination, and CT just completely destroying Bananas. But it didn't really appear fair. So, and it's not like, and CT again just shows up, does that, and then leaves. So there's no impact from that elimination.
Yeah. So going back to Vendettas, like the only thing that really stands out from this season to me is that episode where they threw all of Ashley's stuff over. That was very heated. Melissa was good on this season. She was just a firecracker coming into the house. Great Instagram follow too. Shout out DJ Mel Reeves. She's fantastic. And then the final is just so bad. And then Cam was really good on this season. Cam has become one of my favorite, like, of the new challenge people. She's really the breakout star from this season.
Yeah, all the rookies this season were pretty good, except for Victor, that one guy from Big Brother. And then that was actually Natalie. No, I'm sorry. That was Kaylee's stuff they threw over, because then she left right afterwards on that one episode. And that was also the episode where Tony turncoats on Bananas and throws in Devin. So that was a great episode. But outside of that, I just found the format so choppy. And then, like, if they're going to do it where there's just one winner at the end, tell them that at the beginning of the season. Then actually, instead of girls just carrying guys to the final because, I want to run a final with them, they're good, they would actually make plays against people of the other gender, and it wouldn't just be two separate games going on.
Well, the other big thing I didn't like about this, too, is that you had the ability to steal the cash from people, and then it didn't matter. Like, that was really dumb.
Yeah, because it was like, I remember I actually did the percentage calculations of it. I think it was like 4.8% of the winnings in the end were actually won by people through donations in the bank accounts. And then everything else was just won by card, because most of the people's bank accounts were just gone. Only 4 people exited with their bank accounts, so they had no relevance. That was really annoying.
Okay, let's move to Final Reckoning. And I don't know, man. Like, it was fun to watch, but now rethinking it, the final really left a bitter taste in my mouth. And I'm kind of happy Ashley stole the money from Hunter. I think that's funny. I would do exactly the same thing in that situation. I don't think anyone can, like, bash her for that. But, I mean, her reasons, for one, she should have just said, like, basically what Bananas said when he did it. Like, well, sorry, I have the ability to take all of this money. I'm going to do that. That's the reason that I'm here. Instead of trying to come up with like some sort of excuse of why you're doing it, because Hunter's a bad guy. But it made no sense why she was the winner between the two, because they don't win unless he eats all that food, which wasn't even a part of how the final was judged.
Yeah, so the only way the final was judged in terms of who was the winner between the two on the team were those 2 runs they had. And there was also a lot of stuff they cut out of that final, apparently. Like, there was a whole puzzle section they completely cut out. And then there was also this part where they had to race, like, these ATVs that also they apparently cut out. So there's a lot of it that was just missing. So it was hard to piece together in the end how the results came about. And then the only reason, really, Hunter and Ashley won was because Hunter dominated that eating mission so much, and then he wasn't rewarded for it at all.
Yeah. And that left a very bad taste in my mouth. And that walking over the coals at the end was just really stupid.
Yeah, it was like 5 feet of coals, and I'm sure they could have probably laid down on top of them if they needed to. I doubt those were that high.
Yeah, so, and just there was too many twists in this season, too. Like, the move that Cam pulled off, which was an excellently choreographed move, although if you're going to do that sort of move, go and take someone good out. Don't burn it on Jose.
Yeah, throw it on Bananas and Zach. Don't throw it on Jose and Angela.
Yeah, you could have just voted for them anyway. Like, it wasn't that big of a deal. But
yeah, that wouldn't have been that hard.
But that gets completely negated because of a twist that ends up happening. Like, there's too many twists. Like you mentioned, a team that wins is one that comes like halfway through the show. They've just brought in people to stack against Banana. The Redemption House just went on too long. There was too many different moving pieces. Like, each individual episode was pretty entertaining to watch, but the overall like story arc of the season, like, there was none.
Yeah, no, I'm completely with you. Like, as far as individual episodes go, the episode where Amanda and Zach came into the episode safe and then ended up throwing themselves in because they couldn't agree on who to throw in was, I think, maybe my favorite episode since like Exodus 2 or something. I love that episode. But then overall, the season storylines, I just don't think carried that well.
Well, and they really highlighted, because the Lavender Ladies team made it so far. So you had like Sylvia, you had Marie, you had Amanda. Who's the other one in there? And Ashley. Actually, Smashley's great. Yeah. But like, those aren't super intriguing characters. They just all come off really badly all the time. And like, even Polly, like, Polly was super annoying on the season. Natalie's super annoying. But I mean, the Bananas, he hasn't looked as bad on TV in this season since he hasn't since like The Island, like, just coming off as a bad dude, which is not good for his brand and not good for the show either. Like, you want to, I get Bananas as a villain, so maybe that's where they're trying to polarize people, get him off the show. Everyone hates Bananas. Everyone, I guess, likes Devin, but Devin's just not likable.
Well, the thing is, everybody on this season kind of came off as a villain, didn't they? I actually really liked Marie on these season. I thought she had a good season this time around. Marie, but everybody else, all those live... Yeah, Marie. I thought Marie had a decent season.
Yeah, it was a nice rebound for Marie, but she's just so non-competitive. But that was the other thing from Vendettas that I remember, where she got stuck in the barrel, which was hilarious. But like, she's
that was pretty funny.
Such a non-factor throughout the course of the season. Like, I think Cam won the season, like, in terms of people to enjoy, and Jose, who I just thoroughly enjoy. He seems like he's having a lot of fun.
Yeah, Cam and Jose both were good on the season. That was the thing, though. Basically, every single person who made it to the end of the season kind of came off as a villain. Like, the Lavender Ladies, I guess Sylvia, you could argue, was a bit more of a face. But everybody else just kind of plays the heel role. Like, are Amanda and Ashley really, like, protagonist-type characters? No, I think they're good characters, but I think they work better as villains. And then they push Johnny as a villain, too. And then it's not like nobody in the Johnny Devin confrontation really came off well. So it's all these people are on the show, and they make for good TV, but it's really hard to find any of them that likable.
Yeah, like Nelson and Shane were a really good team, because I don't think Nelson's the best competitor. I would just have him on every season because he does really seem like a very likable individual until he gets way too drunk. And then, maybe he's a bit of a hothead, but he has funny clips. He's competitive, even if he's not one of the best competitors, and he's fun. And Shane's just sneaky. I can always kind of get behind Shane. I don't really like Shane, but he's a compelling character, and to see him do a bit better at the challenges was nice for once, because usually he just talks a bunch of shit then gets wrecked, and this time that didn't happen, which was good to see. But like, we didn't get enough Kyle, and like, Kyle, I think, has become one of the more compelling people, and I don't need to see him tied to Kara the entire time. Like, I think that by himself, he's sort of like a decent character.
Yeah, the thing is, too, a lot of characters that were better on earlier seasons, I think, kind of came off muted. Like, I thought Tony, I think, was the really standout character in Vendettas. I thought he was awesome that season. And then this season, he really didn't seem to do all that much. Like, he was just kind of tied to Bananas. And then Kyle, the same sort of thing. While he was partnered with Brad, almost all of his drama was either related to Kara or that little feud he had with Kaylee towards the end of the season. So it was hard for him to sort of stand out in his individual character.
And I think that kind of goes to, there was a lot of episodes for this, and then you break it up with Redemption House, and then like a Purge Challenge episode, then an In the House Challenge episode, that I think that they needed to cut everything down to make like, here are your A and B, here's your A storyline, and that's really all we're going to focus on your character this season, and you might get a B storyline somewhere along the way if you stay long enough, but it didn't seem like anyone's story changed from like episode 1.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good point. I guess the Marie-Cara dynamic, I guess, kind of grew throughout the season. That's the one part I think actually worked really well. The other problem with the season, of course, was that they had male-male, female-female, and male-female pairs. So I'm not sure there was a single competition the entire season where they were allowed to touch each other outside of that one elimination that Johnny, Tony, Shane, and Nelson did. So most of these missions and eliminations were just not that interesting to watch. That
elimination actually did seem rigged for Johnny and Tony, by the way. Because that was the one where there was 2 eliminations to be had that night, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the reason with that one was, though, they just wanted some sort of physical elimination that season. And then, like, if that was Johnny and Tony versus Brad and Kyle, I think that would have actually been a really good elimination.
I don't.
But with the way it turned out,
I still don't think so. I think that just having like Brad and Tony, I think Tony trumps Brad in terms of overall strength. Although it's probably pretty close, and just Kyle's not a good competitor.
I think Kyle's all right.
No, he's not.
It's hard to. He didn't towards the end of this season. He didn't come off that great. I think he's okay. Like, I wouldn't say he's better than, like, the Devins of the world and stuff. I think he's okay.
I think that he's better than the Devins of the world only because of size. If he had no size, he'd just be pathetic.
Yeah, people underestimate how big he is.
Oh, he's big, but, like, I don't think that there's any way, like, in one of those, like, pull-over, like, if it's a strength competition, Bananas might be giving up, like, 5 inches to him, but Bananas is way more athletic and probably stronger.
With him, I would more worry about long-distance type stuff. Like, if you remember that one mission on Vendettas, that was kind of like the quasi-final where they had to run that obstacle course. He didn't like look so great on there. So that would be the one spot I'd worry on him about. And if he's probably one of the male faces of the show moving forward. And if he's going to be that, he's probably going to need to step up his competitive game a little bit then.
All right, time to go talk to that sneaky-looking guy at the gym who sells the steroids in his Caro pack.
Exactly, yes.
I mean, he showed up in better shape this season. It seemed like he was drinking a lot less, but that's the whole thing, though. I don't want it to be, and I know, like, there's the whole, like, hey, it's the fifth national sport, and it's probably more popular than hockey at this point, and definitely more so than soccer, at least in America, but I don't know. Oh, that was another thing from Vendettas, too, that soccer challenge with Nelson and Corey, which was just pathetic.
Oh, that was so bad.
That was so good, though. I loved it. I loved every minute of it.
I guess it was moderately entertaining to watch. I mean, I actually watched soccer. I know that's going to anger you, but it was hard to watch that challenge or that elimination.
Well, I always theorized that where they had all the UK people in, that they just figured that the UK people would be voted into the first elimination, not Nelson and Corey. So you give them something that, like, hey, it's not a throwing the football contest. You're from Britain. You probably know how to kick a soccer ball. And then it just didn't work out that way.
No, it did not. That was really bad. So it was. I think that was the reason they did it, though, was just because then they could light the ball on fire and it would make for good clips for a trailer. I think that probably helped out for them doing it too.
So, like, are we ever going to see that Derek guy again? Because I certainly hope not.
I don't think so. I felt bad for Tori because I really think Tori is one of the female faces of the show moving forward. I think her and Cam are their best 2 sort of younger characters. Yeah. And then she just got tied with this complete albatross.
So my MVPs from this season, Cam is probably number 1, Jose is probably number 2, and then I liked Angela a lot.
Yeah, but she wasn't on that much. That's a problem with, like, the Joses and the Angelas and even Cam to a certain extent. They weren't on for the whole time. I think so. Out of the trilogy as a whole, I think Cara is pretty clearly the main character. And then I think she came off pretty decently this season. I really think her and Marie were the best pair from this season.
I guess a lot of that is Marie, though. I thought that Cara came off really poorly in this final season. Like, she just seemed super pathetic, which is not sort of her character. It felt like she got past that. And maybe it's going to be a new redemption arc for her on this new season, but I don't know. It just didn't feel like she was all there on the final one.
I think that just partially was due to her being tied to Marie and then not really feeling like they had a significant chance to win is why she was kind of out of it by the end. But they were actually like one of the funner pairs to watch. So I don't know. I thought Cara came off okay, but that goes back to like what we were saying before. If you have Cara and Johnny who are kind of being villains, and then you have all these Lavender ladies who are going against them who are also villains, who are we supposed to cheer for?
Yeah, this is true. I guess, who did you want to see to win the final? Because I was rooting for Hunter and Ashley, as you know.
I do. I really don't know. I probably Cara and Marie, to be honest. But they really didn't have much of a shot of winning. I guess I feel like the story would have made the most sense if Joss and Sylvia won, because they were there for the entire season. They won a few missions. They won a few eliminations. They never went to the Redemption House. So they actually, and then also, at least according to me, how the season was edited made it seem like they were going to win. So that would have made the most sense for me for them as a winner.
When we were talking about this right before the finale, that you had mentioned that to me, I was like, yeah, that means they're not going to win. The editing made it far too obvious that they were going to win, that they just clearly were not going to win. And finally, like you mentioned it too, where you have like the guy, girl, 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 guy, guy teams, that the eliminations were stupid. And these, what do they call them that they put into the eliminations? The equalizers. Well,
they don't call them anything.
Well,
because they don't actually release those to the public. But
they're called equalizers.
We found out about them.
And like you could see it in some of them, and like it makes sense to equalize it, but it just seemed that if you had a guy-girl team, everything was stacked in your favor.
Exactly. Yeah. Like in that elimination where it was Cam and Kaylee against Pauly and Natalie, where Pauly was just clearly pulling so much more weight than he could do in that one elimination.
Let's get to it. Let's talk about the new season of the challenge. No release date as of yet. But, Rob, what are we looking at here? You said it's called War of the Worlds. That's a tentative name for it. You have some leaked cast members. No spoilers coming up, by the way, but just who's going to be on the cast. But it looks like somewhat of a fresh meat season.
Yeah, it's kind of like a fresh meat season, but instead of just bringing nobody who sent in videos to MTV, these people have all appeared on TV in some form or another before. So that's good, because if you remember Bloodlines, they had half the cast being new, and it kind of seemed like the people just didn't know how to work a camera. Whereas with these guys, all at least have had TV experience and know their way around, so I think it'll fit much better.
All right, so what are we looking at for returning cast members this time around? Because it looks pretty good.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. This cast looks really good, actually. So we have, for the girls, we have Cara, Cam, Amanda, Ashley, Natalie, Devon, Jenna, and Nani making her return. Oh, and then on the guy side, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, seeing Nani back is fantastic.
Yeah. So then on the guy side, we have the big three, Johnny, CT, and Wes. Any season with those three is probably going to be pretty good. And then you have Zach, Leroy, Hunter, Kyle, and Pauly.
And is that it? That's it for all the guys, or are there like additional ones that we don't know about? Or are they just like, those are the vets who are coming back?
Those are all the vets we know are coming back. I guess maybe something could happen. Who knows? But yeah, those are the 8 guys. And honestly, looking at them, it seems like pretty much anyone could win. There's no like scrub cast member who's just on there to be out in 5 episodes or hang around just based on their politics. Like, is there anyone you could really bring to the end as a layup? I guess maybe CT actually. But outside of that, I think everybody has a legit shot at winning.
Yeah, I would say out of all the veteran guys, Wes might be the worst at this point, just because he's not in challenge mode anymore.
Well, he was in really good shape in Champs versus 3, though. If you were to go back and rewatch that final, the reason they lost was because Booby was behind him the whole time. He was at the first one to each the spot.
Yeah, I think that if we were to run a final, Wes would do really well. I just worry about in these individual competitions that he's so, like, he's basically my size now. Like, he's not as big as he once was. Like, when he won the duel, he was probably like $180, and he was, like, ripped. And he's probably like $165 now.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a lot. Like, even, like, I don't think that, like, I mean, Pauly's pretty small too, but he's probably in better shape than Wes now. Although I think Pauly and Kyle are probably the 2 worst of the vets coming back. But like Kyle's size advantage over Wes might be a bit too much to overcome, depending on what the actual elimination is.
Well, so that's an interesting question, because if you remember the fresh meat seasons, they had those exile eliminations,
which I love.
Where it was basically just like a long obstacle course. And if it's that, Wes killed those the first time around. Remember, he won 5 in the one season. So if they're built that way, I think he could do really well.
Yeah, I guess it depends on what the rules of the season are. Do you think that we're going to get back to, like, there's no more twists, there's no more Redemption House, like we actually have like a real season? Because I would really appreciate that. I've had enough. We've had 3 in a row that were sort of off the walls where it seemed like the rules were being made up as they went along. I'm sure they weren't. They had some sort of plan for this. But it'd be nice to see like a legit straight up season.
I'm really not sure they had a plan for Vendettas, honestly. That one was just completely off the wall. But yeah, for this season, I think it'll be more sort of straight to the point. I don't think we'll have as many twists coming on. TJ has, in particular, has really been advertising this season and saying it's a back to basics season, as he's called it. So I think that means we're not going to get as many twists. Like, I don't think we'll have a Redemption House coming this time around.
Do you think that Ashley quits in the first episode? This is a Paul,
I think she's gone.
This is a Paul Shag theory that anytime that Ashley wins something, that she just doesn't give a shit the next season.
I mean, that would make sense. She's probably just coming off of the appearance fee. I doubt her or Amanda are make it out of the first 4 episodes, honestly. Because I'm just looking at it politically. And the thing with her turning on Hunter in the final reckoning, it really killed that alliance's chances moving forward. Because now they don't really have the Young Bucks side of that alliance to rely upon. Like, obviously her and Hunter are not going to get along this season. And then I don't think she would get along with Nelson or Corey either if they were on. And then she already didn't get along with Cara and Johnny and that whole group. So I think her and Amanda are going to be one of the first few out of here.
And it's tough too, especially because even though that Corey and Nelson aren't there with Hunter, it does seem like the vets like Hunter. Like even Bananas doesn't seem to mind Hunter so much.
Yeah, out of those younger guys, he definitely seems to be the one that the vets gravitate towards. Like, I think Wes posted a picture of the 2 of them recently. And then CT has always seemed to sort of have like a mentor relationship with him. So I could see Hunter working his way into the a veteran alliance here, and then them just voting out Ashley in the first 4 episodes.
Yeah, and are we even convinced Amanda's actually any good at any of these challenges? Like, what's she ever done?
I mean, I think she's good at puzzles, and her conditioning has been good. And she also at least tries. Like, she has... I think her effort level is pretty good. So she's definitely not a walkover. With this cast, I mean, this is a pretty stacked cast, so it's gonna be pretty hard to compete with these guys.
So who's the best from the girls' side? It's Cara and Cam, I guess, are the 2 best. Maybe Jenna.
I would go not Jenna. I would go Cara and then Cam, and then after that, I think it's mostly a coin flip between the rest. We'll see what type of shape Nani comes back in. Nani, I think, is one of the really more interesting cast members on this season. Because last time she was on was Rivals 3 when she was paired with Wes. And with that season, she and Bananas did not seem to end on like good terms at all. And then her and Wes actually seemed to end on okay terms. So it'll be interesting to see which side of the house she gravitates towards here.
Well, you're going to see, her and Jenna are like best friends. So you can count on Nani, Jenna, and Zach all being aligned together. And then I guess it depends on what guy Zach aligns himself with. Because CT and Wes will probably be a team, I would think, because they're like buddies. Maybe Hunter is going to be in on that alliance too. It's going to be tough for Bananas because you're going to have Bananas and Leroy together. But that's kind of it, isn't it?
Well, I think Kyle's kind of tangentially in that alliance too. But yeah, I definitely, this season really, to me, seems to be shaping up for Wes and CT to kind of run the show, for at least as long as CT hangs around. Because you've got Wes and CT. Zach is also actually pretty good friends with Wes. If you remember back on Vendettas, how Zach and Brad had that kind of mini feud, the reason why is because Wes is actually really good friends with both and connected the 2 of them before the season. And then for whatever reason, their alliance didn't work out. And then now they're pretty good friends. But so, yeah, Wes and Zach are good friends. And so you've got Wes, Zach, Hunter, I think will be on that alliance. And Paulie, remember last season, he was just all over CT when they were in the Redemption House together. So I think he'll just kind of be the little brother in that alliance too.
Yeah, I don't think that anyone likes Paulie. That's my hot take. I think people just find him super annoying and are just going to use him.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They'll let him in with the alliance just for his vote for the first part of it, and then he'll be the first one cut.
Like, are we still even convinced that Wes and Bananas aren't like buddies now?
I actually think they might get along okay now, but I definitely would never see them working together on the show. Yeah, because they're both just kind of quasi-producers at this point, and it would be so against their character and against the narrative the show wants for them to team up that I just think it makes more sense for them to go at each other.
Well, is there any bigger upset in the history of the world than thinking back like 10 years ago that Wes would become like liked by everyone and be kind of a fan favorite?
I mean, I always loved Wes. Wes is my favorite character from the show. And then I guess, I mean, with the downfall of Kenny and Evan, it probably made it easier for Wes to turn around and become likable. And he just actually seems more like a real person on these shows. Like when you were talking back earlier about how these people don't seem to be having fun anymore, whatever Wes is on the Sheamus versus shows, he really seems to be having fun. So that makes him likable to everybody else.
Yeah, and then
plus he's also just such an interesting cast member. Like in terms of whenever you inject Wes into a season, the politics always become so much more interesting.
All right, so let's run through some of these rookies. So let's start off here. We don't need to spend too much time on them, but I guess just hit me up with the first one.
You want to start from the top or the bottom?
Let's start from the bottom. You've ranked all these people, so we'll see. We have someone from The Bachelor Canada on here. I mean, I'm Canadian. I don't watch Canadian Bachelor. I don't know if anyone does.
Well, she was only on for one episode and does not have a publicly available Twitter account. So she's not going to lie. She's pretty hard to find information on. Her name is Shailene Sutherland. And the only things I could really find on her was on IMDb. She has a few actor and producer credits. So I guess she's good with the camera. But she was one of the weirder casting choices. And also this guy, Alan Valdez, was a super bizarre casting choice because he's never actually been on reality TV at all. He just was like a telenovelas actor.
That's kind of crazy. All right, instead of going through, there's like 18 of them, and like we don't know enough about them. I guess if people watch Big Brother or watch Geordie Shore, or is there anyone from Florida Bama Shore on this?
Yeah, this guy Gus is on it, and I think he'll be an all right competitor. Apparently, he's like an emotional disaster though, so okay. he'll be like, you know, he might win a competition or two, and then he'll be crying in between. Is what I've gotten from him.
Okay, so let's talk about the biggest miss of all of this. And you brought this up to me before the show started, and I couldn't agree more. And I know my main man behind the camera, Paul Shag, is going to be devastated when he finds out that the Chad, not on the show. What happened?
I know Chad is a big one. Also, Scotty T. I don't know if you know him from X on the Beach.
Hold on a second. Scotty T with his Turbo D? Yeah, of course he would be the best.
He would have been awesome if they brought him on.
He won like Celebrity Big Brother in the UK and won like $1 million. I don't think he needs to do reality TV anymore.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, I mean, Ashley's still coming back on. She won $1 million, so I think they could persuade him.
All right, so give me the top two from each side.
Okay, so there's two each. The male and females both really have one stand-up competitor to me. For the girls, there's this girl, Natalie Ninja Duran, and she is like one of the best competitors ever, apparently, on American Ninja Warrior. So she actually holds the Guinness World Record for fastest 5-meter rope climb. And I mean, there's going to be some skills that translate to the challenge, some that don't. I think fastest 5-meter rope climb actually probably translates pretty well. And so she's someone who could come on and legit be like one of the next Emily or Evelyn or Laurel type competitors.
Okay, so like she's remember on the two fresh meats, and we're not sure that this is going to be like a quote unquote fresh meat season, right? It could be vets versus rookies as a giant team competition for all we know, right? Or do
I don't see that happening.
I don't see it happening either, but like that's in the cards.
I can say with fairly good confidence that there's going to be pairs that last throughout the season on this season. Right. I can't say for sure because maybe they're just duping me, but from what I know, that's what I'm leaning towards.
Well, remember on the Fresh Meat, I think it was Fresh Meat 1 where they made everyone run the combine beforehand, and you got your combine notes and there was a draft. Are we going to see that again? Because that was awesome. I love that.
Yeah, so that's one thing I don't know about this season. So just to give everyone the heads up, there's 9 each of the new people, and then there's 8 returning cast members. So I don't know if that means there's a purge at the beginning, and then we're going to lose 2 of these new people before they even get on, or if it's going to maybe just 2 of them are replacements that'll come on in halfway through the season type thing if someone gets injured. But yeah, so I would assume there's going to be some type of combine because they did that for both the Fresh Meat seasons. And then I don't know if the new people will pick maybe what they'll do is they'll have a purge, and then based on when you finish in the purge, you get to pick which of the vets you want type thing.
Yeah, so she's the first overall draft pick for like the guy's side.
Oh, 100%. Whoever gets the first draft pick, you got to go to her, at least as far as I'm concerned.
All right, so who's next with the rookies?
Okay, so for the girls, there's a few other ones I think will be really good. Georgia Harrison is one who I think will be really good. So one thing with these female cast members that bring on, everyone outside of 2 has at least some type of fitness background. So we shouldn't have any just pushovers here. And she's actually written in women's fitness and has a few different fitness tip videos on YouTube. And she was on Love Island UK. And she was recently in a relationship with another guy on the cast, Stephen Bear, on the guy's side. So she should bring a lot to the table when she comes on.
Okay, I like that. What about from the guys' side? Who are the two? Like, isn't like the last Big Brother winner on this?
Yeah, that's Josh Martinez. I actually don't think he'll be very good because just from a fitness Big Brother emphasizes very different things from the challenge. It's much more about the politically focused rather than competitively. So I'm not sold on him being a decent competitor.
Like
one guy I am though sold on being an awesome competitor. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, outside of Jose, like none of the Big Brother people I have found particularly interesting on this show. Like, just screw Big Brother, bring all the UK people over. Like, there's someone from I think you pointed this out, from Survivor Turkey.
Yeah, real quick, you didn't like Devon from last season? I thought Devon was pretty good.
Devon's fine. I preferred Faith and Angela over Devon as like new people. I just thought Jose was fun, and that's I'm just looking for fun people to be on the show. But if this dude is from Survivor Turkey, like he's got to be awesome. Like, why else would you have him on?
No, I was completely. So I'm not sure how much English this guy speaks, so maybe that's a hindrance. But outside of that, so he's won Survivor Turkey twice. And Survivor Turkey isn't like the American version, whereas the American version is mostly about like strategy and the social game. The Turkish version is much more just about competitiveness. And so I think it'll translate to the challenge really well. And so him winning twice and just the shape this guy appears to be in, he could come in and be a legit destroyer.
I like that. What are the other guys that we're looking at here?
So there's one other guy who's just completely out of nowhere. This guy, João Paulo Andrade, who's from X on the Beach, Brazil. I have no idea if I'm pronouncing that correctly, by the way. And I don't know how much so he comes from Brazil, and I also do not know how much English this guy speaks. But so he used to be really good. And then there's also this guy, Ashley Kane, who actually played professional soccer for a few years and was on X on the Beach. And he also dated both Kaylee and Melissa from X on the Beach as well.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So he should be pretty good. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, see, I'm into that. Although everyone on X on the Beach dates themselves. Have you watched any of X on the Beach, like the American version?
I've tried watching some of it. I haven't been able to get into it
It's
that
bad.
much, really, to be honest.
Like, it's a bad show. Like
I've done.
I don't hate the
I've done
UK.
some
I don't hate the UK.
scouting,
I don't hate the UK version of X on the Beach because it seems like far more of a laugh. And the Brits just get over everything super quickly. Like, there's one of the fun parts about the challenge is that there's a way to let off steam. You can go into a challenge against someone, like get hands on people. At least before last season. That on X on the Beach, it's just people screaming at each other and like holding horrible grudges.
Yeah, I know. I tried watching it just for some challenge scouting purposes, but I couldn't really get into it, to be honest.
Yeah. All right. Anything else we should know about this new season, do you think?
I mean, this season, I really think this season is going to be a decent reprise if you haven't liked the last two seasons that much. It seems much more competitive focus. One other guy, too, I wanted to bring up is this guy, Theo Campbell. He also comes from Love Island. And so he's 6'5" and is preparing for the 2020 Olympics while he's going on the challenge.
Okay.
So he should be a complete stud too. Yeah, and I think this cast is just looking like crazy. So I'm surprised, honestly, they didn't get more into like the Survivor Bachelor universe for these cast members. Like I think there's a little bit oversaturation of Big Brother people on this cast. It'd be nice if we had a bit more of a mix. But outside of that, I just think this new cast is going to be awesome. Everyone looks like they're here to compete, but then also has TV experience, so they're not going to be completely foreign to working with these cameras.
Yeah, because we don't need another Bloodlines, which was probably the worst season of the past 20.
It's either, for me, let's see, what did I have that one? I had Bloodlines. I had the island below it. But yeah, I was not a huge fan of Bloodlines.
All right. That'll do it on the Pat Mayo Experience. Rob, tell everyone where they can download your podcast and follow you on Twitter and see all your challenge articles.
So we're at the challengechronicles.podbean.com. If you prefer iTunes, like most people, just go to iTunes, search Challenge Chronicles Podcast. You'll find it right there. Also, if you want to follow my challenge articles, I'm going to have previews for this next season, maybe a few more interesting feature type articles. I'm at themedium.com at Vandalay Inc. 16. I'll also have that link on my Twitter account. So if you go to @RobMCI16 on Twitter, you'll see all my stuff there.
All right. You can follow me on Twitter @ThePME, same as Insta, same as Facebook. And you can subscribe to the Pat Mayo Experience audio podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher. Those are the big three, but also Radio Public, Audio Boom, TuneIn, wherever you can download any sort of podcast for free. You can find the Pat Mayo Experience every single day of the week. Remember to like the episode, leave your DraftKings handle in the comment section along with your favorite competitor in challenge history, and you are into a draw for 20 DK dollars. Thank you for watching. I'm Pat Mayo. I'll see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience! Experience!